Class 12th, subject physics, 14th chapter, dual nature of radiation and matter. From the chapter, let us see de Broglie hypothesis. De Broglie hypothesis. We know that the properties like frequency nu and wavelength lambda are related with a wave, and the properties like energy E and momentum P are related with the particle, and therefore de Broglie used the properties like frequency nu and wavelength lambda of a wave and proposed the relation which connects these with the particle properties like energy E and momentum P. So de Broglie proposed that theory in order to connect the properties of a wave with the properties of a particle, that is, properties like frequency and wavelength of a wave will be connected with the particle properties like energy E and momentum P. Now the momentum P carried by a photon of energy E is given as P is equal to E by C. So P will represent momentum of that photon, E will be the energy of the photon, and C is the velocity of the photon. So P will be equal to E by C. But according to Einstein's special theory of relativity, P will be given as P is equal to E by C, that will be equal to h nu by C, where h nu will represent the energy of the photon, that is E is equal to h nu, and therefore P will be equal to h nu by C, that will be written as h by lambda, because this nu by C will be 1 by lambda, and therefore P will be equal to h by lambda. This relation describes the wave and particle properties of matter, that is P is equal to h nu by C or h by lambda will describe the wave and particle properties of matter. Now de Broglie proposed that a moving material particle of total energy E, and momentum P has associated with it a wave analogous to a photon. So according to de Broglie, a moving material particle of total energy E and momentum P has associated with it a wave analogous to a photon. Then the frequency and wavelength of the wave associated with a material particle of mass m, the frequency and wavelength of a wave associated with a material particle of mass m and moving with velocity v will be given as, so the frequency and wavelength of a wave associated with a particle are given as frequency nu equal to E upon h, where E will be the energy and h is Planck's constant, so nu is equal to E by h, and wavelength lambda will be equal to h upon p, that is equal to h upon mv, where p will be replaced by mv, that is the momentum of that particle. So that we will get lambda is equal to h upon mv, as h is constant, therefore lambda will be inversely proportional to p or mv, and therefore from this relation we can say that greater is the momentum, shorter will be the wavelength. So for those particles which are having greater momentum will give rise to the shorter wavelength associated with it. And now for a particle of mass m moving with velocity v, the kinetic energy will be found. So the kinetic energy of a particle of mass m and moving with velocity v will be given as kinetic energy Ek equal to half m v square, or from this phi will be equal to square root of 2 Ek upon m. Phi is equal to square root of 2 Ek upon m, and therefore the wavelength lambda will be given as wavelength lambda is equal to h upon mv. Lambda is equal to h upon mv. That will be written as h upon m as it is, and 1 upon phi will be, as phi is equal to root Ek upon m, 1 upon phi will be square root of m upon 2 Ek, and therefore we will get lambda is equal to h upon m into square root of m upon 2 Ek. This m, which is under root, will get cancelled with one of the m from this under root, because this m will be written as root m into root m. One root will get cancelled with this root m, and therefore we will get h upon square root of 2m Ek. That will be the wavelength lambda, h upon square root of 2m Ek. Now if you consider this relation, that is lambda is equal to h upon 2m Ek, then for a charge particle of charge q associated with it, the wavelength will be calculated, and therefore for a charge particle of charge q, when it is accelerated from rest through a potential difference phi, then the work done will be equal to qv, and which provides the kinetic energy. So when a charge q, when a charge particle of charge q is accelerated through a potential difference phi, at that time the work done on that charge will be equal to qv, and it will provide the kinetic energy. Therefore we can write kinetic energy Ek equal to qv, and lambda is equal to h upon square root of 2m Ek. That will be written as h upon square root of 2m qv. This Ek will be replaced by qv, that is the work done will provide the necessary kinetic energy, and therefore we have Ek is equal to qv and lambda is equal to h upon 2m qv. Now instead of any charge having its value of charge equal to q, if you consider an electron of charge E, then when an electron moves through a potential difference phi, so if E represents charge on the electron, and if it is accelerated through a potential difference phi, at that time the wavelength associated with it, lambda is equal to h upon square root of 2m E phi. So this q will be replaced by E here. Now if we put the values of h, m, E in this relation, then we will get 6.63 into 10 raised to minus 34 upon square root of 2 into 9.11 into 10 raised to minus 31, that is mass of the electron, into 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19, that is charge on electron, into phi, which will give us 1.228 into 10 raised to minus 9 upon root phi in terms of meter. As it is 10 raised to minus 9, neglecting it, we can write it as 1.228 upon root phi nanometer. This will be the wavelength associated with an electron of charge E moving with some velocity phi through the potential difference phi. And now let us see the next point, that will be Davison and Germer experiment. Davison and Germer experiment. So let us see the diagram. The experimental setup for this Davison and Germer experiment is as shown here, and therefore it will contain a high tension battery, that is HT. Then here there will be a low tension battery LT, low tension battery LT. Then to this low tension battery, a filament F will be connected, which will act as electron gun. Then in front of it there will be a anode. The anode will be placed here. Then in front of anode there will be a nickel crystal on which this electron beam will be focused. From this nickel crystal, that electron beam will get diffracted through different angles. It will get scattered through different scattering angles theta. Then it will be allowed to fall on this electron detector or metallic detector, and further it will be connected to the galvanometer. Here there is a circular scale over which that metallic detector can rotate according to this scattering. Then this whole arrangement will be placed in vacuum chamber. So in case of this Davison and Germer experiment, now when the electrons are emitted from this filament, that is from electron gun, it will be focused on this anode. Then there a beam of electron will be formed. That beam will travel towards this nickel crystal. It will fall on this nickel crystal, and due to the atoms of this nickel crystal, it will get scattered in different directions having different scattering angles theta, and then finally it will be detected by this metallic detector. So in this way working of it will take place. Now in short, its construction as well as working will be now explained. So if you consider this Davison and Germer experiment, it consists of an electron gun to provide the electrons by heating the tungsten filament F using a low tension battery B. The electrons from the gun are accelerated through vacuum to a desired velocity by applying suitable accelerating potential across the cylindrical anode and are focused in a beam. Then this beam of electrons falls on the nickel crystal. It will fall on the nickel crystal and is scattered in different directions by the atoms of that nickel crystal. Then scattered electrons were detected by an electron detector, that is by the metallic detector, and the current was measured with the help of the galvanometer. By moving the detector on that circular scale, that is by changing the scattering angle theta, the intensity of scattered electron beam was measured for different values of scattering angle. Then the intensity pattern shows the diffraction pattern. The intensity pattern of this beam will give rise to the diffraction pattern. Now the Davison and Germer experiment, in this case Davison and Germer varied the accelerating potential from 44 volt to 68 volt. So the accelerating potential of that electrons was varied from 44 volt to 68 volt, and they observed the peak in the intensity of scattered electrons at scattering angle 50 degree and potential of 54 volt. So the peak values of the intensity of the scattered beam was observed at 50 degree and potential 54 volt, and the wavelength of matter waves was found to be lambda is equal to 0.167 nanometer. So according to this Davison and Germer experiment, the wavelength associated with an electron was found to be 0.167 nanometer. So this will be about Davison and Germer experiment to study the scattering of electron with the help of this experimental setup. And now let us see the next point, that is wave particle duality of matter. Wave particle duality of matter. So in this point of wave particle duality of matter. What is it? Duality of matter. The phenomenon in which the material particles show the wave-like nature under certain conditions is called as wave particle duality of matter. The phenomenon in which the material particles show wave-like nature under certain conditions is called as wave particle duality of matter. That is, particles of the matter will sometimes behave as a particle and sometimes as a wave under certain conditions. The wave particle duality shows that all moving particles have an associated frequency and associated energy as well as momentum, because when any particle is in motion, if it is behaving like a wave, then the frequency and energy will be associated with it. If it is considered as the particle, then energy and momentum will be associated with it. For both the electromagnetic radiation and atomic and subatomic particles, particle nature is dominant during their interaction with matter. On the other hand, while traveling through the space, the wave nature is dominant. For electromagnetic radiation as well as atomic and subatomic particles, and thus for all material objects in motion have an associated wavelength, because when all material objects are in motion at that time, a wave will be associated with it, and hence an associated wavelength will be there when the material objects are in motion.